Now, I went to a Catholic high school, and I was raised Catholic, not like intense Catholicism, like drilled into my being every day, but go to church every Sunday. That was pretty much the extent of it. Um, I eventually turned away from Catholicism. I didn't like the teachings that it had. I didn't believe in the teachings that it tried to teach others. So, but I stayed in the school because of my friends all went there. The last year of my high school, I was about to say career, but I guess my high school years. Uh, well, first you have to understand that in the Catholic school every year, one of the mandatory classes you have to take is a religion course. And for grade 12, you got to choose between Christ and culture, ethics and morality, and what was the last one? Philosophy. There you go, philosophy. And I'm myself being the lazy bastard I am, didn't take philosophy because I heard it was a very homework heavy course, and I didn't take Christ and culture because if it has the word Christ right in the title, I probably wasn't going to like it all that much. So I took ethics and morality. And the teacher who taught ethics and morality was a crazy Christian nutbag, basically. Like, she basically turned the ethics and morality course into a Christ and culture course at every ample opportunity. But one day we got into a discussion about morality, and she talked about how our conscience, like the conscience, like the voice inside your head, is Jesus. And she said it as a fact. She said, the truth is that these are her words exactly. The truth is your conscience is Jesus. And I was like, excuse me, miss, but then why do so many people why did the terrorists blow themselves up and believe that is a good thing? And their conscience thinks it's a good thing if Jesus is everyone's conscience. And she's like, well, they're just misled. I was like, all right, you can continue doing whatever you do. I'm just gonna sit here and draw or whatever. And she said something that kind of floored me a little bit. She said, "Now it is impossible to be morally right without Jesus." So first of all, I was like, okay, so you just said everyone's conscience is Jesus, and I'm pretty sure almost everyone has a conscience. So you're saying that you're basically contradicting yourself in that one sentence. But even if we ignore that completely and we talk about people who can't be moral without Jesus, so she's basically saying everyone who is not, well, all atheists are not, even if everyone's conscious is Jesus, then everyone should be moral. There are people who aren't moral. So basically what she's getting at is there are people who don't believe in Jesus aren't moral. It kind of confused me a little bit. I asked her about it. She didn't really explain it too well. But I'd like to talk today about atheism and morality, and the idea of, can you be moral without religion? Can an atheist be a moral person? Well, the obvious answer to that is yes. I'm not going to leave it at that. I will explain my reasoning behind it. But for those of you who didn't take an ethics class, I'm going to explain something. Now, from what I remember from the class, there are four or five. There's arguably five, but there's four main types of ways people can learn their morality. There's religious determinism, in which you learn your morality through your religion. That would be like following the teachings of Christianity as your morals, as in what the teacher thought was everyone's morals through Jesus. So basically, you follow the Ten Commandments, you follow the Bible, you follow God's teachings, and that's your moral. That's your moral. That is your morality. Now, for someone who is of the like an Islam faith, then their morality would be based on their religion. Same thing for Jewish. Same thing for um, anyone else of religion. I'm sorry, I've lost track of all the different religions in the world off the top of my head. I apologize for that. But anyone who's of a religion, that is their religious determinism. That is their religious moral teachings, and that is what it's based on. And that is what the whole idea of religious determinism is. Now, the second kind is free will, and that is the idea that we are born being able to choose our morality in every situation. That is embraced by a lot of people these days. Now, if I'm incorrect, please correct me, but I remember this from the textbook. But then again, the textbook was very skewed towards the Christian values, so I might be incorrect in this assumption. But that is what I believe free will is. Free will is the idea that we are in fully control of all of our moral choices. So it is not based on anything. It is not based on who we are, who we grew up with, the people we know, the places we live, what we do with ourselves, what we plan to do with ourselves. It's just everything. We can choose to do anything. So someone who is a drug addict chose to be a drug addict. Someone who killed someone chose to kill someone. And in many situations that is true, but I find that to be a little iffy at times. The third one is called naturalism, and that is to say that is everything that our morality is based on can be found in nature, and that nothing we do is without scientific explanation. So basically what it's saying is that we as human beings in our evolution from monkeys, we learned as monkeys that our morality can be, well, helping people is good for us and for them, and that's where our morality comes from. The reason we want to help people is because we recognize that, hey, if I help that person, he might in turn help me, and so it's good for both of us, and we work together as a group, and that comes from our primate ancestors. So now, naturalism is a very interesting kind of school of thought. The book kind of painted it in a bad light, but I did some research on my own, and I thought it was interesting. I don't fully accept the concept of naturalism because there are some very, very real exceptions to the rule, such as serial killers who feel no remorse for killing anyone, or people who will just like outright slaughter someone for no reason, like not serial killers, but someone who will just kill someone and think that they're in the right to do so, like a homophobic man who shoots a homosexual man and thinks he's in the right. That is not based on naturalism. Neither is games like football. I know I'm kind of going off topic here, but if you have a group of men who grab a ball and run it down different sides of a field in order to score points, that's not based on our naturalism. So everything in our world can't really be explained by looking at our past. That's the only issue I have with it. I think it's a strong ideal, but it has some holes in it that I'm kind of curious about. And if anyone knows why I'm wrong or anything about why I'm wrong, please just comment, video response, whatever. I don't care. But I would love to hear from you if you understand it a lot better than I do, because I'm just spouting my thoughts right now, and if someone knows it better than me, I would really appreciate to hear about it. The fourth type is the type that I follow more than anything, and it's called social determinism. And it is the idea that when our morality is based on the world around us, where we were born, who we were born to, who the people around us were, what we saw, what we did, what kind of school we went to, what grades we got, everything around us is what our morality is based upon. So someone who is raised in a ghetto where their mom is a drug addict and their dad was non-existent and they had like 4 brothers who were all in gangs and they were brought up around drugs and prostitution and guns and violence and all that sort of thing, they are more likely to get into the gang life because of the things around them and think that the gang life is a good thing because their morality tells them that, because they were brought up in a situation where their morality was I won't say skewed, but kind of pulled into that position. The thing that like, and again in the opposite way, someone who is born to a wealthy family and who is brought up in constant luxury will have the idea that luxury is the only way of living, and that the people who are probably lower class than them, they might, if they believe that those people are scum, then it might be because their parents brought forth the idea that these people are scum, because it was something that they grew up with. I personally believe in a mix between social determinism and free will. It's kind of like a choose your own adventure book. The idea that, okay, if a guy was raised like, well, okay, for example, I grew up in a household where drinking, like people drink all the time in my household. Like not just to drink, but to get drunk, basically. Because the whole, like, that's just the way my family grew up. My mom, my dad, my stepdad, and my little sister are all heavy drinkers. And I myself don't like drinking. I I personally, like, I don't like the taste. I don't like the idea of it. I don't like what it gives, like what it entails. And that is an exception, but it is not the rule. So I believe in a mix between social determinism and free will. I believe that, like, for example, when I was growing up, I saw everyone drinking, and I even emulated it when I was a younger child. But as I grew up, I saw the impact that drinking has on people's lives. Seeing my younger sister at 14 come home from a party, she has no idea where she is, can't remember anything, and ends up with the next 4 hours spending the next 4 hours with her head in the toilet. Kind of made me realize that this is not what I want for me. Now, but seeing the drinking growing up, I basically had three choices. I had the choice to drink, like my family, and emulate my family, and be brought up in the context of what they thought was a good moral decision, drinking. I could go against the morality I was taught and forge my own morality in which I saw what was wrong with what they were doing and base my life on that. Or C, I guess, I'm using letters and then I turned to numbers for some reason. I could drink moderately, kind of a mix between the two, and have that as my morality. Now, I believe that the social determinism determines your choices, but your free will chooses which one you think is the best for you. I chose option B in this case. I chose I'm not going to drink in the slightest. Now, any of those choices would have been, I think, socially acceptable. Well, not socially acceptable, but morally acceptable for me because of what I grew up with. Now, in the same way, a serial killer who's brought up in an abusive household, not everyone who's brought up in an abusive household will become a killer because they made the choice to not let that impact their morality. But someone who is brought up in an abusive household and becomes a killer, that is just in their moral thought because they believe that what they are doing is morally good in their eyes because their free will dictated that this is the kind of person they're going to grow up to be. So this is what I believe. And I know I kind of got off topic, but all in all, I believe atheists can be just as, if not more, moral than their religious counterparts. Because where religious people do often apply God to their morals, an atheist person will look at what they are given and say, these are the choices I have for my morals. Not someone telling me what to do, but who I am as a person, what I have experienced, and what I have seen. These are the choices I can make. I don't have to pretend to be someone I'm not. But these are the choices I can make. This is the kind of person I can be. What am I going to choose? Again, in the choose your own adventure sentence, what page am I going to turn to? And that page could lead to an overwhelming victory or an underwhelming defeat. But the thing is, atheists choose. I'm not saying there are religious people who all religious people don't choose, but I'm saying without religion, atheists are forced to choose. And when we choose, we display when we choose good, we display a higher moral understanding than someone who follows a good idea based on a book or a story or anything. because we actually understand it instead of just following blindly. I'm a voice in the mind. And to my 12th grade ethics teacher, just because I'm an atheist doesn't mean I'm not a moral person. And just because you're a Christian doesn't mean you have the right to tell me that I am an evil person because I don't believe in God. Thank you for listening.